So far, to my knowledge, based on reporting, Grant Udinski, the offensive coordinator of Jacksonville, Mike McDaniel, the now offensive coordinator of the Chargers, former head coach of the Dolphins, and Jesse Minter, the now head coach of the Ravens, former defensive coordinator of the Chargers, have all turned down Browns interviews. So let's start with the Cleveland Browns. Do you believe they're going to screw this all up because nobody seems to want this job?
I'll answer your question with a question.
Okay.
What have the Cleveland Browns done in the past decade plus that would lead me to believe that they will not screw this up?
Okay, so this is my answer to that question then. I think the Browns have screwed this up so much they're going to end up with the right guy. Let me say that again. I think the Browns have screwed this up so much that they're going to end up with the right guy.
Explain.
Okay. I believe, and I've been saying forever, that there is a such thing as a bridge head coach. And we're going to get into this because Ryan Clark, ESPN NFL analyst, believes that someone already hired is that. So we will get into that in a little bit. But I have said for years, there's a such thing as a bridge head coach that no one wants to acknowledge. It's how do we find a guy to coach our team when we know we're not ready to win, and we also aren't going to ruin the guy or the team as a result of the hire, and we are also going to roll the dice and say maybe he could be good. Okay, Nate Shieldhouse, your guy, because he went to Illinois, was your quarterback.
Yep.
Not when you were there, right? Or was right after you were there?
Right
I
after.
think. Right after you were there, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Kirk Kittner was there when you were there. Who's now that I'm
Juice Williams, baby.
Okay, Juice Williams. I wouldn't know
Juice
that guy if he
Williams.
walked in here. Anyway, so this guy was a former Illinois quarterback. He's 35 years old. He spent a couple of years calling plays for Matt Campbell at Iowa State, and he's been for the last few years on the staff of Sean McVay with the Rams. You get that guy. Everyone loves this guy. He could be ruined. And you could ruin him. He could ruin you. Is that fair to anyone? No. The Browns are telling everybody, according to reports, that they want Jim Schwartz to be the defensive coordinator with whoever this young up-and-coming coach is. Well, a lot of these young up-and-coming coaches are saying, well, what the hell's the point of me being a head coach if I can't pick a staff? So I think the Browns are going to end up with the thing that they need, which is a bridge coach. They're not ready for their long-term coach yet. They don't know 100% their quarterback position. They're not stable as a franchise right now because Andrew Berry stays as the general manager when Kevin Stefanski goes the head coach. That taking Jim Schwartz, putting him in a more prominent role is great for him because nobody else is giving him a head coaching job. And it's probably great for them because if they're ready to be a big-time team, and you don't think he's the guy, somebody will then want you, and he'll help you get there. I think they have done it so backwards that they're going to end up with the right guy that they should have had in the first place.
And with that, welcome into the Inside Edge Network, everybody. I'm Eli Moon. To my right, your left is Chad Bryan. And if you were watching last night around 11 o'clock Eastern time, Chad and I went live. We went over all the news of the Browns coaching search, which was primarily an interview with Rams passing game coordinator Nate Shieldhouse. The Buffalo Bills also did an interview, Shieldhouse, that same evening, which caused some concern and some worry in Cleveland. And still today, there is no hiring for the Cleveland Browns. They are yet without their head coach. However, we do have some other vacancies filled. We're going to go over all that and so much more here on the continuing coverage here of the Cleveland Browns search for a head coach here on the Inside Edge Network. With that, I'd like to welcome in my friend, my bro, Chad Bryan. And Chad, how are we doing today?
We're good. We're waiting, right? I keep hitting refresh on every Twitter feed that I can think of. We're trying to find some breaking news. It's just even something, just a little tidbit, a little nugget, right? Anything. Right now, we're just we're in a holding pattern. But, like you said, some things have fallen into place. Maybe some people are out in certain places that makes us feel a little bit better. Then we feel worse, and we feel better. You saw the video. The Browns are just in the midst of screwing this thing up so bad they just might get it right, Eli.
Yeah, and I do want to give credit. The video intro there from the Unsportsmanlike show. They're on ESPN, and that's there with Evan Cohen. They're talking about the Browns and talking about they might mess this up so well that they luck into their coach. Now, I don't know if I agree with that, and we'll have so much time, it seems like, or maybe not, depending if the Browns make a move here, and he is the guy. But is Jim Schwartz the bridge coach? It doesn't make sense to get a bridge coach in here. I mean, there's a lot to talk about. I guess we'll start there. And just to remind everybody, thank you for tuning in. You can follow us on all the socials at Inside Edge Net. Go ahead and lock in if you love the coverage we've been providing here over the last day or so on the Browns and all the coverage the last 5 months. Go ahead and tap in here with us and stay locked in. But I'll open the floor to you here, Chad. You know, is Jim Schwartz the guy? Is it the right call? Because now with the Bills, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit, the Bills filling their vacancy and it not being Nate Shieldhouse, it feels like if it's Schwartz at this point, it's a mistake, or settling for the guy that you didn't want in the beginning. Well, what are your thoughts?
I don't know. It's like familiarity versus like the new shiny thing, right? We're obviously all familiar with Jim Schwartz. I'm not trying to say he's old and dull by any means. But you got Jim Schwartz in house. I mean, we know what he is. We know who he is. And I guess the only thing that I would say, it does feel a little bit like you've settled if Schwartz is the guy. I like Jim Schwartz. I like him in charge of that defense. And here's the thing that we haven't really talked about much. We don't know what goes on behind the scenes, right? Like, we don't know if Schwartz has gone to the front office and said, "Hey, do what you got to do. I'm here. I'll run the defense. I'll be the head coach. If you want, we can kick Bubba Ventrone out of here, and I'll handle special teams." No, I'm kidding. But no, we don't know what his mindset is. We don't know if he's annoyed by all this. We don't know if he's perfectly fine with it. We don't know if some of this is his idea. Like we don't know who's in on these meetings. And for all we know, Schwartz could be like, "Hey, do what you got to do to find a coach. If you don't find one, I'll take over. And then when you do find one, but here's the thing. He said Jim Schwartz could be the perfect bridge coach. What do we do with Schwartz when we find a guy then? Does he just go back to being the defensive coordinator? I mean, I would presume that you would have a defensive coordinator if Schwartz is going to be the head coach. I'm sure he's not going to try to take on both of those roles. So then what do you do with that guy? What do whoever the defensive coordinator is under Schwartz, what do you do with Schwartz? Let's say it's Schwartz for a year and the Browns they surprise everybody and go 9-8 or 10-7 or whatever and make the playoffs and almost have a run. And now all of a sudden you've got coaches saying, hey, now you got something to work with, right? What do we do with Jim Schwartz? Like what's this? Where does he go after that? If we suddenly now we have Nate Shieldhouse knocking down the door and we go, okay, well now you want to be in. Okay, let's bring you in. What happens to Jim Schwartz? What happens to it just seems like that could be a recipe for disaster again, unless Schwartz is behind the scenes going, hey, do whatever you got to do. I'm here. I'll bide my time. We don't want to make Myles Garrett mad. Whatever. I don't know. I mean, I would imagine the second that Jim Schwartz gets annoyed and if he leaves, then we're talking Myles Garrett trade talk again, right? Like he demands a trade. Who knows? I have no idea.
Yeah, we're just a year removed from Myles Garrett going on Media Row and discussing how he wanted out of Cleveland, though despite loving the city and everything, it was time to win a championship. Obviously, he ends up signing an extension, stays in Cleveland. But it really could be deja vu next week on Media Row, just when that Super Bowl starts up, Myles Garrett could still be one of the biggest talks again. And that's concerning. Jim Schwartz is very qualified as a defensive coordinator. Is he the right guy at head coach? Do I agree with the bridge coach? I don't know, because to your point, Chad, it's like, what do we do with Jim then? Is he going to be okay just going back to defensive coordinator? What if we have a ton of success with him? Like, why would we, move on from him? Obviously, if he gets the gig, and obviously nothing announced yet, we'll stay here as we'll break the news here once we get the breaking news from the Browns and get the new head coach. But I just don't know if Jim Schwartz is, going to be the right fit first off, and I don't know if bridge coach is what I'm looking for here. I'm looking to build with the offense if I'm, the Browns. I'm looking to see what Quinshon Judkins, coming back from injury, what he can do. Harold Fannin at tight end, Shador Sanders, that's a big conversation, obviously. And, that's what I want to see. I want to see somebody that's going to develop the offense.
Yeah.
You mentioned Jim Schwartz, though, too. It's a very real possibility. And I know they're having conversations still with Nate Shieldhouse, Jim Schwartz, Todd Monken still in the mix, and Anthony Lynn as well, who they did interview at the end of last week. So very interesting there. But there's a possibility that Jim Schwartz just looks at us, Chad, and goes, you know what? I'm done with the games. And I'm going to San Francisco because Robert Saleh just opened up that position there. And I think, and I mentioned this yesterday while we were on air, it's just, Nick Bosa's returning there. Fred Warner's returning. They're both coming back from injury. Jim Schwartz could have the same success there in San Francisco, and it's a winning culture already built by Kyle Shanahan. So that's
better.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're the Browns, you really could end up, with egg on your face. We've been using that term a lot, but that's really what it could be. I think worst case scenario, is Todd Monken. Truly, that's my opinion. I think worst case scenario is Todd Monken. I mean, you had the guy in the building, obviously, 5-6 years ago, and Cleveland.com's Mary Kay Cabot mentioned late last night and has continued to, you mentioned today, Todd Monken's still in the discussion for the Browns head coaching job. Let me ask you that, Chad. I mean, like, Todd Monken, does that excite you if he becomes the head coach? Now, the talk is it would potentially be, he could maybe just slide in as the offensive coordinator, depending what happens with Schwartz, depending what happens with Shieldhaas and Lynn and all the names. Does Todd Monken get you excited to watch Browns football on Sundays?
It's going to take a lot to get me excited to watch Browns football on Sundays, Eli. And that's the only day we have, unfortunately. We have no Mondays. We have no Thursdays. We have no primetime games. Listen, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if Todd Monken excites me. I think in a weird way of the external candidates, he's probably the safest choice. Highest floor, maybe lowest ceiling. He's been in charge of some pretty good offenses, but also in those places where he's been in charge of those offenses, like Georgia, right, and in the college football ranks, and then Baltimore, obviously in the NFL. What did he have? What did he have in common there? He had really good personnel, right? And a pretty good established head coach who knew what he was doing. There's an established culture there. There's a winning culture. There's a set, defined way of doing things. And is there a set, defined way of doing things in Cleveland and with the Browns? I don't know. I mean, not really. It's sort of like whatever the new trend is. I mean, that's where the Haslams seem to go with whatever, whether it's a coach search or the draft or, I don't know. I mean, I think it's very unstable here right now. And I think the next person that you need to look at bringing in has to be able to come in and they're going to have to work through all that instability. But then through that instability, they're going to have to provide some stability because it doesn't come from the ownership down the way it does in Pittsburgh, right? It doesn't come from an office the way it does in Baltimore. It's going to have to come from the head coach, which is unfortunate, but that's what it is right now here. So,
yeah. And you mentioned Jimmy Haslam, you mentioned the ownership. Obviously, a ton of reports going around, about, who's really controlling this coaching search. Is it Andrew Berry, who, in my opinion, is really trying to keep himself off the hot seat in Cleveland, or at least get off of it, with the right coach, a good offseason, a great offseason, to be honest, what we need in Cleveland. And, it seems like, after a long interview process with Nate Shieldhaas yesterday, you fly out to Los Angeles the day after he lost the NFC Championship game. You go out there, you interview him, you go through the whole process, and you don't walk away with a signing. You don't announce a head coach. We're now here Eastern time. It's 3:14 Eastern time, and we still don't have a head coach. It's middle of the afternoon. Are you surprised that, I know we were on the air for, until a little bit after midnight Eastern time yesterday, and not, maybe it wouldn't have broke then, but are you surprised that we still don't have an answer on the Browns head coach?
Well, yeah. And a little bit of me says that if we don't have it by now, it's probably not going to happen today. We're out of that kind of press cycle, right? Where you do it during the middle of the week. The only time you try to do it later in the day is on a Friday when you're trying to hide whatever you're announcing, right? Like you put it at the end of the press cycle on a Friday in the afternoon. Most people are heading home for the weekend, whatever. So 4:30, you drop the bad news, right? I would think if the Browns are excited about their head coaching candidate, they want to do this at 9, 10 a.m. during the middle of the week on a Monday, a Tuesday, whatever. So it feels a little bit like, okay, it's 3:00. These kind of things tend to break midday with the Browns. I've noticed right around lunchtime, we always have the press conferences around 11, noon, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels a little bit like if we don't have it right now, we may not have it yet today, but we just don't know. I mean, there's no indication one way or another. I guess my simple answer for everything you're going to ask me today, Eli, is I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're right though. It's like, we're heading to the end of the business day. Typically, about 5:00 is like really the cutoff, and I mean typically, but we'll see. The Browns are very unconventional in everything they do, so this might drop at 8:41 p.m. Eastern time, and we'll be here. However, just a reminder, Chad and I will be here just locked in until really there's no sign of news, if there isn't any, but hopefully we get some news so we can break that down here with all of you here. And we're going to try to incorporate some other talent as well, see if we can get some of the other friends from the Inside Edge Network with us. So thank you again for tuning in here with us. Got a lot of stuff to break down here. I want to ask one more question here, and then we're going to take a quick pause. And we're gonna see if we can bring in some of the talent. If not, you'll see Chad and I smiling faces as we come back and break down all of this. I want to pose a question. Are you feeling a little bit more relieved now that the Buffalo Bills have their coach?
Yeah, because it kind of felt like the Buffalo Bills were trying to, move in unison, like in step with the Browns. And I won't say sabotage what the Browns were doing, but everything felt very just in tune, right? Like everything the Browns did, the Bills were half a step behind on, right?
Yeah.
And it just sort of felt like, not like you make that whatever, it's like your little brother tagging along or whatever. But in this case, I mean, the Bills are probably the big brother. Like they're the more desirable spot.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, you brought up the homecoming date, last night. I mean, that you made that reference last night, and it's like, hey, stop trying to ask my date to the dance. Like, you know what I mean? Like, go with you. I mean, that's how we feel about the Bills. I mean, we compare the Browns to the Bills. So yeah, that felt a little uncomfortable for a while. I can't blame them for doing their due diligence and talking to the people they want to talk to. I mean, there's no problem there. But yeah, I mean, some of it felt, I guess, a little intentional. It was like right in step. But it was scary because here the Bills are with a better opportunity, a better quarterback, a better offense, a better track record, a better everything, except they get a little more snow up there than we do. That's about it. That's the only thing they have that we have an advantage on. So that felt a little odd. It was uncomfortable. Speaking of snow, man, I cleaned up my driveway today finally.
Yeah.
We had at least, 6 miles. It was over top of the snow blower, so I had to go on top of the snow and then go back under. That's neither here nor there. I accomplished something today. I'm very proud of it. So
yeah,
I guess Buffalo made me uncomfortable for a while. Now that they have Joe Brady, I guess I do feel a little.
Oh, we may have lost Chad here for a moment. Oh, there we go. Oh, we may have lost you here for a moment, Chad. Right, real quick before we get him back in here. Just a reminder here, what we are talking about here, Buffalo Bills coverage. What they've announced today is, Chad's back. What they have announced today is the Bills have promoted their offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, to head coach. Both sides agreed to a 5-year deal. As you were saying, though, Chad, you mentioned about Buffalo kind of just like in lockstep with the Browns and everything. Now they promote from within. And, I can't lie. I saw a few posts, tweets, whatever, all across social media saying that's how you handle an internal hire, elevating from within. The Bills went out and did their thing and they elevated, and that's why you look at the Browns with this whole Jim Schwartz thing and you go, if he was the guy, he would have been the guy, they would have went through the process a little quicker and just made sure they could actually hire him and get it done. Yeah. But here we are. The Steelers started their coaching search after us. They got their guy, Mike McCarthy. The Ravens started their coaching search a few days after us. They got their guy, Jesse Minter. The Bills have started they started it last week or a few weeks ago. And, the Bills are now in position to have their guy in Joe Brady, who, if that name sounds familiar to anybody out there, he did work with Joe Burrow at LSU, was, credits, Joe Burrow has mentioned, crediting Joe Brady for helping out with his growth there at LSU. Obviously, he's been there with the Bills. And has helped with the progression of Josh Allen. So definitely has a experience, great experience helping out younger quarterbacks develop into phenoms. And obviously he has the experience with Josh Allen. So if you're going to bring in anybody, I guess, offensive minded wise, why not bring in the guy that's had success with your offense? Because that really hasn't been the problem. We mentioned the one game with Josh Allen, the loss, right, against Denver. It was bad. It was the most turnovers he's had in a playoff game.
That was rough.
But that's not going to happen very often. It's not going to be the offense. I think that's going to be causing an issue. So I'm excited to see what Joe Brady does in Buffalo, and I'm glad that we don't have to worry about them trying to get Shieldhaas or whoever. Now it's really just the Browns versus the Browns.
Well, Eli, let me propose this to you. What if they go after Nate Shieldhaas for their offensive coordinator position? And he goes, hey, that's a much desirable spot than the Browns head coach. Yeah, I'll go there and work under Joe Brady. And by the way, if you want to get a job in the NFL, listen, you don't have to know your X's and O's. You don't have to know your personnel. Just get adjacent to a pretty good quarterback and become friends with the quarterback and go, hey, man, if you could do me a solid, could you just say I helped out with your development in some way? Boom. 5 years later, you're a head coach in the NFL. That's all you have to do. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Just decent quarterback adjacent. Boom. You're right there.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you here, Chad. Me and Papa Moon were sitting here last night, after we got done, with our broadcast here on the Inside Edge Network. And we sat there and talked, and I'm like, I don't know, Pops. I don't know who it's going to be. I mean, is it Shieldhouse? Is it Schwartz? Is it Monken? Is it Lynn? I said, what happens if Schwartz and Shieldhouse just both tell us we're cool? Like you just said, Shieldhouse maybe goes to Buffalo, Schwartz goes to San Fran or wherever else, or maybe does entertain Arizona, who still needs a head coach. Vegas seems to be catching some steam with Clint Kubiak. We'll kind of keep an eye on that. But, what happens if that, is the case? And I looked at Paz and said, look, man, all I know is if it does become that, we need to put in our applications and see if we can at least get into the fold to at least get an interview. I don't know. It's so crazy that we live in a world where we fired Kevin Stefanski, now Atlanta Falcons head coach, about 3-4 weeks ago, and we're sitting here wondering if it was, some Browns fans at least are wondering if it was the right call or if they were a little too quick to fire Kevin Stefanski. However, I don't think anybody saw Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Buffalo all becoming available in the same offseason.
It felt like they could, but you were like, in the back of your head, you were like, no, never. Not at the same time. Not at the same time like this. But here we are.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And you know what? I just hope the Browns get it right as a Browns fan. But yeah, I mean, you honestly just created a little bit more worry in myself. I didn't even, I guess, you don't think of Shieldhouse wanting an OC gig when he's being talked about still with these 3 openings. A reminder, the Browns, the Raiders, and the Cardinals still with the 3 teams that are without a head coach. I'd imagine he still wants a head coaching gig, but that is the stuff that scares me because now you are really limited in terms of what homework you've done, as far as the Browns. That's worrisome, so I don't know, Chad. I don't know.
Like I said, the answer to everything all day until we know is, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'll tell you this. One thing we do know is we're going to be here with all of you across all the platforms here, YouTube and Twitter, primarily for your live streaming. So if you're on X or Twitter, make sure you go ahead and follow the Inside Edge Network if you're loving what we're talking about here and stay locked in with all the coverage we'll have here today. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you comment, we can also post your comment here up on the screen. So get involved in the conversation with us. If you're a Browns fan, tell us who you think is the right call for the Cleveland Browns to bring in as head coach, maybe even offensive coordinator. Tell us your thoughts. We're going to talk a lot more of the other moves of, Kevin Stefanski had his introductory press conference today, and he did acknowledge the Baker Mayfield tweet. We'll talk about that.
Those days will never go away. They'll never go away.
Yeah, I know. So we'll talk about that, Chad, and we'll talk about just the coaching carousel. We'll kind of take it away around the NFL as we'll be here with you for quite a while. So thank you so much for tuning in. That's Chad Bryan. I'm Eli Moon. We're going to take a quick pause. Go ahead and grab yourself some water or caffeine. It's around lunchtime, and especially if you're on the West Coast, it's lunchtime. It's about noon 30. So go ahead and get what you need, and Chad and I will be back going over all the coverage of the Cleveland Browns, the NFL coaching carousel, and keeping you up to date with everything as we find out. So for Chad Bryan, I'm Eli Moon. We'll be right back. And welcome back, everybody, to the Inside Edge Network. I am Eli Moon. To my right, your left, or in the middle now, is Chad Bryan. And over to my far right, your left, I think that's how he says it on main event here on the Inside Edge Network, is my main event colleague, Rob Rizicki, who usually is the captain of this ship. You know, I usually don't ask all the hard-hitting questions. But, Rob, welcome in. Thank you for joining us. Like I said, you can catch Rob here on Inside Edge Network. Sunday's main event with myself and AA Anthony Alford. I think this is the first time Rob and Chad are live on the air together. So we're like I said,
yes. How are you doing? I think it's the first time I think we've talked since the meeting on the inception of this beast here.
Yeah, that's in some ways that feels like 10 years ago, and in some ways it feels like just a couple of weeks, man. How you doing?
Oh, not too bad. Yeah, that was the Texas-Ohio State game. Yeah, oh, how time flies when we're having fun. Yeah, I guess I'm doing just how everybody else is doing. We're just looking around and waiting for a new friggin' head coach here in town. At this point, I'll do it. I'll do it. You know, if you're going to fire me in a year anyway, $500K, get me out the door, whatever's clever.
Yeah, stick me with the defensive coordinator. I don't care. Put whoever in charge of the offense. Let him call plays. I'll stand there and hold the clipboard. It's whatever. I don't care.
Yeah, it's a rough one out here, guys. Obviously, if you're a Cleveland Browns fan. If you're just not tuning in, thank you for tuning in. And the viewership is just piling in. Thank you so much for choosing the Inside Edge Network to get your news here on the Browns head coaching search. We're going to go over that in the NFL coaching carousel. A lot of stuff to break down. Rob, I know you're just now joining us here. Me and Chad talked a lot about it here in the first segment. So I just want to get your initial thoughts on the question I posed to Chad before the break, which was the Bills obviously announced they had promoted Joe Brady from offensive coordinator to head coach, right? Now they agreed to a 5-year deal. Do you feel, if you're a Cleveland fan, do you feel a little bit more comfortable, or at least better about the Bills at least having their guy in Joe Brady? And Chad had mentioned Shieldhouse potentially being the OC. You know, like just the door isn't closed on Shieldhouse still not choosing the Browns. How do you feel, or how should Cleveland feel?
Well, I guess Buffalo's the best job out there. I think even if you take every job straight up, you know, whether or not it was filled or not, Buffalo's the number one gig out there. So, yeah, if they've centered in on their dude, that's one less guy out there that's looking for a date for the prom and, you know, leaves the rest of the pool to you. So, yeah, I mean, if it is Shieldhouse going to be the OC with Schwartz, if it's going to be Shieldhouse as the OC, I guess that now just by default, I don't know how you would want to rank it with the Raiders, the Cardinals, and the Browns as the only 3 teams looking for dates right now. But the Browns might be the best option at this rate. So, I don't think it can do anything but help the Browns right now, especially since they promoted from within. Joe Brady wasn't an actual name in this search anyway, so it's not like the Browns lost out on somebody. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, this is good for the Browns for sure.
Absolutely. And you know, and I know there's, you know, and Chad, you'd mentioned the Shieldhouse, obviously being a potential OC for the Bills. I got to be honest, Rob, you know how I felt. I wanted Grant Yadinsky, the Jacksonville OC. That was my guy. I had really been saying it for the last 2 weeks on Main Event. He pulls out of the coaching search yesterday, and all signs were that it was going to be Shieldhouse, at least if that's what it felt like. They spent all day with the guy, flew out to Los Angeles the day after he loses the NFC Championship game, and somehow, some way, the Browns don't, you know, put pen to paper with him. The Bills interviewed him and still didn't choose him, which I don't know if that's an indictment on Nate Shieldhouse or if that's just the Bills not knowing what they're doing. I don't understand what they're doing. Does this feel like a Jimmy Haslam meddling situation? Like, who is really running this coaching search?
Yeah. Oh yeah. This is Foghorn Leghorn doing his thing. This is, yeah. I mean, he is not dysfunctional at all, and yeah, completely doing this for sure. I think it was Pelissero was saying the other day that Haslam is pushing away some candidates. I mean, you know, we've all heard about the whole analytics-driven personality, multiple choice, passing the LSATs, whatever the hell they have. I don't understand how many tests you need to take to drive this garbage truck, but it is what it is. But I think that is pushing away a lot of these legitimate candidates. And I think Jimmy in at least by enabling Andrew Berry right now, is definitely having his hands all over this coaching search.
Yeah, it seems like it's a mess. And, ultimately, Jimmy Haslam, like you said, has said, though the media claims that they're dysfunctional in the building, they are not dysfunctional, Rob. Jimmy Haslam said it, so it has to be true, okay? What he says, exactly. It's got to be true. It's got to be true. I mean, I don't know. I guess, like, ultimately, here's the other question I'll pose, because I posed this to Chad, about, like, okay, there are 4 options, primarily, it seems like, for the Browns, in kind of a mixture. It's Nate Scheelhaus, it's Jim Schwartz, it's Todd Monken, and it's Anthony Lynn. Who do you think ends up getting the head coaching position?
I think it's going to be Schwartz. I think the Browns have been looking around and have been turned down by so many prospective dates out there that they're going to go back to that ex who's old and sturdy. The parents know, everything's all comfortable. And I think it's going to be Jim Schwartz, and it's probably not going to be the worst thing. But I think it's probably the only hire that Andrew Berry can make that he can possibly change in a year and still keep his job. But, we were looking at Jim Schwartz's coaching resume at Detroit. I mean, he had him for I think it was 6 years in total, or 5 years in total. Mm-hmm. He grabbed the 0-16 Lions with the rookie Matt Stafford, took them to the playoffs in 3 years. Yeah, the wheels came apart on the but I mean, these are also the same people that screwed up Chad Johnson, Barry Sanders. I mean, this is kind of the old Lions, so I don't know if you could put that on him, but Schwartz may not be the worst idea at this point. So, I mean, at least everybody knows him, but I think it's going to be Schwartz.
So you're telling me Jim Schwartz is going to get a text from Jimmy Haslam at 2 a.m. that just says, "You up?" Is that it?
Pretty much. At this rate. I mean, like, the dude's been sitting here waiting by his phone now for the last 2 weeks, waiting for a call. So, yeah, I don't know about this entire search. And I think, I think Schwartz might not be a bad consolation prize, but Schwartz will be a consolation prize.
Well, it's something I just want to ask you, Robert, real quick before Eli goes ahead. This is something I've been kicking around inside my head, I guess, for the last few days now. Where do you think Jim Schwartz is mentally, psychologically, whatever, with all this? I mean, we talked about, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We don't know if he went to Jimmy Haslam, Andrew Berry, or whoever the powers may be there and said, "Hey, do what you got to do. I'm here. If I'm the fall guy, I'm the fall, well, not the fall guy, but the fall back guy, whatever." Or
safety school. Yeah.
Avoid by this,
If I don't, because he's under contract. So ultimately he has to do what the boss man says. Yeah. If he, we heard about him doing the head coaching interview in Baltimore. That's not a Haslam thing. That's a league rule thing. If you're getting a promotion, you can take that interview. It doesn't matter what your employer says. Yeah. So I don't know if I'm Schwartz here. I'm kind of sitting here in limbo because, well, first I better be guaranteed that this dude coming in, whoever the head coach is, if it's not me, will keep me as a defensive coordinator. Yeah. Because at that point, he's going to get dumped the night before the dance and not have a date. Yeah. If we're going to keep going with these analogies.
We like to dance here. Yeah.
I mean, he's pretty happy working with Myles Garrett, I would think, and he's pretty happy with the current situation he's in. So if I'm Schwartz, maybe I'm sitting around saying if there's probably 25 other worse defensive coordinator jobs out there. So I'm not in a bad spot. If I have assurances I'm going to be on the staff next year, then okay. And coach and waiting, just kind of fallback plan. We'll see what happens. So I don't know how he's taking it. He hasn't really talked to anybody, but you could tell he's not interviewing for defensive coordinator gigs. The only thing he's kind of talked about is head coaching gigs. So I don't know if it's Jimmy Haslam imposed rule or if he's kind of staying put on his own. But either way, it's an odd position to be in. It really, really is.
It's weird.
It is, and honestly, and then my follow up to that, Rob, is like, we talk about just the 4 names. I pose them unless some curveball. And me and Chad had some fun yesterday talking about maybe Deion Sanders, maybe Bill Belichick if everything else fails. And I know we've had our conversations of Deion and Belichick. It doesn't that would be if everything else failed. But I mean, here's the question I'm going to pose. Let's just get to the question. At the end of the day, is the Browns coaching search right now, is this a disaster? Is this after everything, the 3-4 weeks we've been doing this, is the Browns coaching search a disaster? For both of you, I pose that question.
Go ahead, Rob. You just came in. Go ahead.
I'd say disaster is a strong word. Has it gone well? No. Has it gone to plan? No. I don't know if we can judge the whole thing until we get our coach.
Yeah.
Because if it is Jim Schwartz, I don't know if it's a disaster. If it's Bill Belichick, it could be a disaster. If it's Chuck Kyle at this rate, I don't even know what this what's going on there. Just throwing out random Northeast Ohio coaching names for anybody outside the market.
Yeah.
We got to know how the story ends before we say disaster, but this hasn't gone to plan whatsoever. This is not the way these guys drew this up, and somewhere Kevin Stefanski has to be smiling.
Go ahead, Chad.
Yeah, you would think Kevin Stefanski is probably, I don't want to say eating this up, but.
Oh, by the way, how bad of a coach was Kevin Stefanski last year? Are you meaning to tell me that you had the defensive rookie of the year, the defensive player of the year, and a Pro Bowl quarterback, and you only managed 5 wins? Oh, you and Josh, Buffalo are the only 2 Pro Bowls, guys that let go of your coaches, man. That's just a bad. I mean, Pro Bowl quarterback means you should win 10 games, right?
He was the Pro Bowl quarterback, especially a guy who threw. I mean, that interception to touchdown ratio. Wait, isn't it supposed to be the other way around? Isn't it the interception ratio? Whatever. Doesn't matter.
Fellas, we got a lot to talk about here. We do have.
Sorry,
you're all good. You're all good. We actually have Inside Edge talent, Papa Moon, tuning in here, and he posed the question: if it is Jim Schwartz, will the offensive side of the ball suffer under Schwartz? Thanks, Papa Moon, for chiming in. Make sure you check him out on the Inside Edge Network Saturdays at 5 p.m. I produce that show. I don't know where he's at right now. He could just be completely in a different, area, but he is tuned in, and I'll pose a question to you guys from Papa Moon. If it is Jim Schwartz, defensive-minded guy, does seem like he has the pulse of the locker room. However, is the offensive side of the ball going to struggle? We just talked about Shedeur Sanders, and we just talked about, though, despite being a Pro Bowler, and congratulations to Shedeur, the 7 touchdowns to 10 interception ratio, the Quinshon Judkins coming back from injury, Harold Fannin. Like, these are guys that need to develop. You still are going to probably draft a wide receiver 1 in the draft, is your hope. Does it suffer? Does the offensive side of the ball suffer under Jim Schwartz if he becomes a coach? I'll start with you, Chad.
I think it depends on who they bring in or who they promote from within to run the offense, quite frankly. Again, a lot of this stuff we don't really know. It's hard to answer until we know who the guy's going to be. And even then, you can know who the guy is, and you don't know how that's going to play out until you've seen him coach for 17 or 34 games or whatever. Sometimes it takes a couple of years. I don't know if the offensive side of the ball, I don't know. I mean, do you have your quarterback? That's a question. We don't really know that. I think Shedeur showed flashes. I've said that many times. I like Shedeur Sanders. I think he's got some potential. I think he's got a higher floor than some guys. I don't know, the higher ceiling maybe than Dylan Gabriel for sure. But you need you've got to have a complete overhaul on the offensive line. I don't even know that you look to draft a wide receiver 1 in this draft. I think you're that far out, honestly. I think you might want to build from within. You might want to try to strengthen up the trenches, right? Like you're okay on the defensive line. Putting a guy on the other side of Myles Garrett is fun. That sounds exciting, but you really need a complete overhaul on the offensive line. So I think no matter who you bring in to run the offense, you're going to have guys there to keep the quarterback up on his feet, right?
Yeah, Rob, what do you say?
Yes, I agree with Chad here. Like, it's all going to be on who is going to be running the offense. I mean, Schwartz has never been known as an offensive coach. So, if it's going to be Shieldhouse, if it's going to be somebody else, somebody they promote from within. Honestly, I don't even know the status of the coaching staff individually at this point with Stefanski and, moving down to Atlanta. And keeping in mind, too, with the Ted Hen coaching vacancies, a third of the league's coaches are going to be shuffling around. So, yeah, who the hell knows what's going to be happening within? But it's going to be dependent upon who is going to be running the offense. And, I do agree with the idea. I think you got to look at this one of two ways. Either we got to find the quarterback, or we're either okay with the quarterback, or we can't find the quarterback. Like either change or go with Shedeur.
Yeah.
And if you're going to just keep Shedeur around as a placeholder, or if you think he's the guy ready to go, then that offensive line, then make the offense quarterback friendly. Give him time to move. Give him time to just kind of exist back there and not be running for his life. You already got the tight end. Let's see what happens with Njoku. He could be around too. Who knows? I know he's a free agent. The running game is materializing. Maybe picking up another set of legs back there might not be the worst idea.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it big time. It's make sure that offensive line is going. And even if you want to throw in a little bit more on that pass rush on the defensive side of the ball too. But make this thing quarterback friendly for either Shedeur or any new quarterback. If it is another placeholder, if it is Ty Simpson, if it is whoever this is going to be in the next year or so. I mean, did anybody think, Kenny Pickett was going to be in and out of town and this time last year? So yeah, who the hell knows?
Well, you should have let us know a little bit about Kenny Pickett, my friend. You should have prepped us for that, in fairness. So, look, I mean, we talked about Mike McCarthy. One thing we haven't talked about in the last year is, before this season is Kenny Pickett. But anybody with eyes can really know what we were going to get into with Kenny Pickett. But thanks, Papa Moon, for the question. Again, he's Saturday at 5 p.m. here on the Inside Edge Network. Real Talk with Papa Moon. If you like hearing stories that are inspirational, motivational, educational, and real talk with real people, tune on in. I produce that show. We have a great guest this week. Actually, my Lahele Collective members, my people, man, Gio and Lau. So LMDN. So Gio and LMDN are going to be on the podcast this Saturday. Going to be great stuff. What we're going to talk about here next, we're going to pivot. I have one more question here before we go to break. And Rob, are you going to join us after the break, or do you have to skedaddle?
I'm good till about 4:30. So yeah, I can do probably one more.
Okay, so we're going to get Rob back here after the break. I'm going to pose one more question. And this is, I know we are talking Browns, but I have to ask because Mike McCarthy did his introductory press conference today in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And he talked about the idea of bringing back Aaron Rodgers. And he pretty much said, I don't see why you wouldn't. Definitely. Rob, I'm going to ask you, because we've talked about Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers, and now Mike McCarthy being the guy there. Is this a good or a bad move if the Steelers were to bring back Rodgers? And the only reason I ask that is because they don't seem to have the future at quarterback and haven't since Ben Roethlisberger. And it seems like I know they have Will Howard there from Ohio State, but it seems like they're just prolonging the inevitable, which is they're eventually going to have to get a quarterback unless their plan is just signing veterans that have won the Super Bowl at one point. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, unless they want to go with that Miami Hurricane, go to the transfer portal every year to pick up a fifth-year guy. That seems to be the Colts were doing that for a while. Phillip Rivers was a part of that, the Matt Ryan, all that fiasco in there.
Yeah.
Normally, I would be very opposed to the idea. I didn't like Aaron Rodgers, the idea of him coming in the first time. So, yeah, a year older. That's even better. 42. Dude, I've been 42. I know how the knees go at that point. But normally I would be kind of opposed to that. But given the other options out there, what are we talking about? We're talking the Malik Wills in Green Bay. We're talking the Mac Joneses of the world. We're talking, whatever the flavor of the week is. I don't know, Davis Mills. I know he had a good run as a backup this year. I don't think he's leaving Houston, Rob. Just not to interrupt. I think Davis Mills will be a Houston Texan until he retires. They love him there. But I get your point. It's like the quarterback situation isn't, and we talked about with the Browns, but even the Steelers they're in a way worse spot in terms of draft position, in terms of getting a top quarterback. There's not a lot of options at top quarterback. Yeah, they're about 15 spots lower, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, I guess, but would you rather them? I'll just ask you this: would you rather see Will Howard out there if you're a Pittsburgh fan, or would you rather see Aaron Rodgers run it back one more time? They did win the division this year. Granted, it wasn't pretty at times, and they got bounced in the first round at home. But would you rather see Will Howard and see what you got with the former Buckeye?
I mean, it seems like the organization over there has kind of cooled on Howard. I've heard some reports saying they don't see him as kind of a franchise dude, but. That being said, I mean, unless they don't, and I think they got another veteran backup out there that was kind of the safety net this year behind Rodgers. But they're going to have to see what they have. I mean, if the idea is there is no other better options, we have to look and stay in-house, then you got to stay in-house and see what your options are. And it might be put up or shut up time for Will Howard. But, I'm kind of curious to see what Mike McCarthy would do with him. Obviously he had, A-Rod in Green Bay for those 4 years to kind of sit in the bench. You don't have 4 years this time, but I think there might be a shorter leash. But, I mean, it's the Steelers are, we got spoiled with Roethlisberger. They're in a spot now that a third of the league is in, and, a third of the league almost is perennially in, where you don't have the guy, and finding that guy is really, really hard. So,
yeah,
if it is Aaron Rodgers, if it's Will Howard, again, I'll say the same thing I said to the Browns. I'll do it if whatever. But it's just a really bad spot to be in.
Yeah.
Especially
what do you
with
think?
the class.
Yeah. Chad, do you have anything to add there on that?
I don't know. I look at Will Howard as a guy. I mean, I'm a huge Buckeyes fan. I watch, every Ohio State game. I can't remember the last Ohio State game I've really missed. I look at Will Howard as a guy who, he's a great competitor. Big guy, right? Big body, kind of an AFC North body, but not necessarily an AFC North arm. He throws an okay, I don't even want to say a deep ball, a deepish ball, right? But he's not going to throw a 20-yard out and be, accurate on the dot. He makes 2 or 3 puzzling throws a game, which, when you don't score a ton can be troubling, right? If you're looking at the Steelers, they're not an explosive offense by any means.
Bottom third offense for the last 7 years.
Yeah. And a lot of people would say, some of that's Arthur Smith, who's now an Ohio State offensive coordinator, whatever. At least he's got the FedEx money. I don't know about Will Howard. I mean, I like him. I like him as a competitor, and they did win a national title with him there. But I don't think that, at any point I ever saw Will Howard go and put that team on his shoulders and go lead them to a victory. It seemed like he was just the guy who was there not making too many mistakes while, the defense and the running game with Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins did their thing. And it just sort of seemed like, hey, don't go screw this up, right? That was his role. I don't know that he's the guy you want to put the Steelers. I don't think you want to put the Steelers on his shoulders and go, hey, go win us 12 games in the division. I just don't necessarily think he's that guy. Unfortunately, I like him. I just don't think he's that guy.
Yeah, it's interesting. And that is one of the only common things and themes of the franchises between the Browns and the Steelers right now. Mm-hmm. Quarterback, get Rodgers, you at least get another year of, if he can run it back at 42 and look, like he at least did somewhat this past season, then I get it, but it seems like quarterback seems to be a big question, which was never really the case in Pittsburgh. They had Ben Roethlisberger there for many years and just took care of that, and now that is the only thing we have in common with Pittsburgh right now.
Yeah.
It was such a nice feeling to have that position sawn up. And I think that's why I was so angry, even though I'm not a fan, when the Browns got rid of Baker Mayfield, because you had that same feeling that, okay, he may not be the best in the league, but he's going to give you a chance to win pretty much every time he's out there. You're going to be a good team. He's going to do his job well. And you just kind of toss that away because, again, Foghorn Leghorn wanted to metal up a little bit and kind of get everything going. So, yeah, it's just, again, like it was a really nice feeling. And, having, no more Ben Roethlisberger there, your ass is hanging in the breeze for sure. And you got to find something to cover it up.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. An interesting offseason. Cleveland obviously still waiting to really officially start their offseason because we don't have a coach. But obviously a lot to follow here. We're talking not only Cleveland Browns here stuff if you're here in the Cleveland area or Browns fan across the nation and the world. We're going to continue to cover the coverage of the Cleveland Browns head coaching search here on the Inside Edge Network. So make sure you tell a friend where to be, Inside Edge Net on all the socials. So thank you for tuning in. If you're on YouTube or Twitter, go ahead and chime in. We can go ahead and put your comment on the screen and we'll discuss it here. Tell us who you think the Browns should bring in as head coach, or if you have any thoughts on any of the other openings in the NFL. A reminder, not only the Browns, but you also have the Raiders and the Cardinals also with openings at head coach. So let us know. When we come back, though, Kevin Stefanski spoke. He had his introductory press conference. He did bring up the Baker situation, guys, and he discussed some other things as well.
This one's on me. I understand.
With that being said, we're going to break down all of the cryptic messages from Kevin Stefanski in his introductory press conference. We're going to talk about just obviously the former Browns head coach. He is already situated and has familiarized himself a little bit with his new franchise, while the Browns are still figuring out who will lead there. So we'll talk Kevin Stefanski. We'll talk the NFL coaching carousel when we come back. We get Rob Ruzicki for another segment. We are so blessed. So a reminder, on the far right to my left, Rob Ruzicki. Okay, in the middle, Chad Bryan. I am Eli Moon. This is the Inside Edge Network. We are covering Cleveland Browns head coaching search until they name one, or until it's too late and we all got to go to bed, and we'll try again tomorrow. This is the Inside Edge Network.
I was going to say, if you guys are still on after I'm done working, I will hop on at midnight. We'll make that happen.
All right, well, we'll keep rocking.
Okay, well,
this
way,
this is the Inside Edge Network Cleveland Browns head coaching search marathon, and we'll be right back after this. And welcome back to the Inside Edge Network, everybody. I am Eli Moon. To the middle of me, in the middle of myself and Rob Rosicki, is Chad Bryan. And on my far right, your far left, is Rob Rosicki. Just a reminder, we are all across the board here on the Inside Edge Network, where you're tuned in right now. Thank you for being a part of our coverage of the Cleveland Browns head coaching search and all across the NFL head coaching carousel. Follow us on the Inside Edge Net all across all platforms. And stay locked in, subscribe, and follow. And if you love what we're talking about here, go ahead and tell a friend. Again, Chad Bryan, Rob Rosicki. You'll hear their thoughts throughout their shows this week. Chad Bryan on Illegal Formation with TK Dandridge. Saturdays, getting you prepped here in the morning, early morning, or early afternoon. Chad, what exact time there for Illegal Formation? Tell the people.
Yes, that exact time. We are shooting to go live anywhere between 11 and 1 typically on Saturdays. A lot of it depends on logistics or whatever we're talking about. Usually somewhere between 11 and 1 we like to go live on Saturday. So just, make sure you're watching Saturday morning to early afternoon. And I guess the important thing is just make sure you're following us on social media. Make sure you get the notification bell clicked so you can be notified when we go live. That way you'll know.
Absolutely. And make sure you check out Chad, Ryan Mosser, and TK Dandridge, as they probably have just one more NFL pregame show covering the big game between the Seahawks and the Patriots. Yeah. And, of course, Rob Rosicki, my friend, my bro. I could tell him where to find you. Where can we find you? Where are you going to get all your takes across besides this show on the Inside Edge Network? Tell the people.
Well, yeah, of course, we got the main event on Sundays. We'll go, we have kind of a window, anywhere between 8 and 10 o'clock. We'll kind of go off on Sunday nights.
Yep.
And then actually, not to be a direct competitor to what's happening here, but in about 7 o'clock, I'll be on with Dennis Maniloff on Sportsline. We will be doing basically the same thing we're doing here and sitting pretty until the Browns make a decision here or there or anywhere. And then, Saturday I'll be on about 3 to 7, I believe, on WTM 1100. And hopefully we'll be able to judge what happened with this Browns head coaching search. If not, it'll be a very interesting show if we're going to be sitting here in 5 days with no head coach. So, either way, I think would be a pretty interesting situation in the next couple of days.
Absolutely. And then, of course, you mentioned main event. You can catch me there with Rob Rosicki and W. Anthony Alford on our late night Sundays. Usually I get a cup of coffee going about the second or third, break, get ready to go. And, we just do our thing. And then, like I said, Real Talk with Pop Moon, Saturdays, 5 p.m. I typically have conversations with Eli Moon on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. I know it's probably a shock, but I am feeling under the weather. I don't want to – we are doing this virtual, so I won't get any of the fellas, sick or anything. But I would like to make sure everybody stays safe and stays healthy. So we're going to postpone conversation with Eli Moon for next Tuesday. It'll be a new episode out. So my apologies to everybody out there waiting. But DFG Soul, a Christian rapper, is going to be on the show next week. It's going to be a really, really good conversation. So make sure you check it here on the Inside Edge Network, Tuesday, 7 p.m., next Tuesday. So with that being said, and then, of course, Chad and I, Thursday Topics, which is primarily 10, 11 o'clock at night. We just go on for about an hour or two and discuss all the topics of the sports stories, the sports world. And maybe by then this will be old news. The Cleveland Browns head coach, maybe they get him today. Who knows, fellas?
We'll still be on air from this show Thursday night at 10 o'clock. We don't really know.
We'll just change the name of it mid show. This is now Thursday Topics.
Speaking of changing the name, real quick programming note that the Inside Edge Network, the NFL pregame show, the Cleveland Browns and the NFL pregame show. Pretty much this Sunday is going to be the trial run for our first. We're going to call it the Sunday Sports Show. We're still going to talk about the NFL this weekend because we still do have a pretty big game coming up in a couple of weekends here. So we'll be doing your Super Bowl coverage for a couple of weeks. But going forward, that show is going to be same time slot. We'll still go live around 11 o'clock in the morning. We'll still be on until about 1. We call it the Sunday Sports Show. That we're going to do local and national headlines. And then we'll, each of us will bring a topic to the show. We'll talk about it for about 20, 30 minutes apiece. So we'll still be with you guys. You'll still be able to see us Sunday mornings. You'll see me, Ryan Mosser, and TK Dandridge. So no fear, no worries. You guys still have that going. So
I love it. Well, heck, fellas, I almost said just started going off the rails here. But let's talk about Stefanski. Let's talk about Atlanta. Okay, big news coming out of Atlanta. At least if you're in Cleveland, because it seems like anybody that's been associated with the Cleveland Browns and Kevin Stefanski or he like them is going to Atlanta. Torrey McElhaney, who covers the Atlanta Falcons, reported that they hired Bob Quinn as a senior advisor to head coach Kevin Stefanski. He obviously was in Cleveland during Stefanski's tenure here. There's a lot to break down, and Kevin Stefanski had his introductory press conference today. Had a lot to say. Mentioned, how tough times can make you stronger, and he wouldn't change anything about the past. But does this just? I mean, we've talked about it, Rob and Chad. We've had some discussions. Is this Cleveland Browns, but like the beta version? I don't know if I should call them beta because we didn't do very good here with this staff and collection. But it just seems like if it didn't work in Cleveland, why are you running back dang near the same staff and everything, fellas? Wow, it doesn't make sense to me.
Listen, that the NFC South might actually be worse than the NFC North on average. This year was bad. Injuries decimated the Ravens. We know Lamar Jackson was out for a few weeks. That hurt them. The Steelers had, let's be honest, an elderly man at quarterback. I'm 46. I feel like I'm allowed to say that. Aaron Rodgers, he doesn't move like Aaron Rodgers used to move. Not that he ever moved all that well. But you saw what they did against the Browns. I mean, they completely took themselves out of the game with that game plan of trying to get the ball out of his hands so fast that no one even had time to run a route. The Browns are just the Browns. I mean, the Browns decimate themselves every year just by showing up to the game. It's fine. And then, the Bengals are, again, the Bengals. The Bengals don't like to sign draft picks. They don't pay any attention to their defense or special teams. It's just all Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase. When they're healthy, it's okay. When they're not, it's pretty catastrophic. But somehow the NFC South is worse, you guys. I don't know how, but it is. And what I'm waiting for now is the hilarious news. If the world has a sense of humor, the next thing that we'll see is the Falcons are trading Michael Penix in a 6th-round pick to the Buccaneers for Baker Mayfield in the 5th-round pick or something. That would be hilarious to team them back up and just see how that goes. That'd be fun. That'd be a fun sitcom. I don't know. I mean, I'm just dreaming over here. Listen, we can't get any breaking news. I did see a tweet from Mary Kay Cabot while we were at the break. Because I know she had fun tweeting this. It said, #Browns candidate Grant Udinski got a new deal to remain with Jaguars. So there you go. I know that was fun. There'll probably be some engagement on that or whatever. But I don't know. What was your question? I went off the rails.
You're all good, and I'll pose the question back to both of you, and I want to get Rob involved here too.
No, I'm done.
You're all good. The Falcons, I mean, and you touched on it, Chad, in terms of the division being a mess. But if it didn't work in Cleveland with this staff, Rob,
yeah,
why would it work in Atlanta?
Okay, well, I think this is the same sentiment and the same kind of attitude that is currently in Cleveland right now. In Berea, it's this Cleveland Browns, Andrew Berry, Jimmy Haslam arrogance that makes them look at some of these head coaching candidates. And now we're finding out coordinators and position coaches are not immune from this either, having them jump through all these hoops that we've been talking about, and everything like that. The arrogance there, they're acting like they're Brett Veach and Andy Reid. They're acting like they're Howie Roseman, where they're going to take, the best pass rusher in the league for a 4th-round pick every year. They're acting like, quite frankly, they've done something. And Kevin Stefanski, if I'm looking at it too from Stefanski's point of view, I'm not bringing the coaching staff that bombed out in Cleveland this year. I'm bringing the coaching staff that took me to not one, but 2 Coach of the Year awards. So clearly something was going right down there, and let's bring it. And that's why I'm not a fan of these head coaches being unemployed for 8 days. Typically go back down to the assistant ranks, take a year off, take some stock in what you did right, what you did wrong, what you can correct, what was out of your control, and move on. But right now, Kevin Stefanski has all the positive reinforcement he can have with the way he does things. He won 2 of those Coach of the Years. He was unemployed for a week and a half, and now he is calling the shots down in Atlanta. He was Matt Ryan's handpicked dude. He was their first candidate. So why not bring down everything that you like down here? Now, he might do it right because, Bubba Ventrone, from what I understand, has not gone down south yet. So it seems like he's picking and choosing the parts that worked up here. Now, if that works, we'll see.
Yeah, it's just I have so many different feelings in terms of the Kevin Stefanski split here with Cleveland. Obviously, I'm appreciative for the 2-time Coach of the Year, the playoff appearances. But obviously there was some disconnect at the end. And whether it was Stefanski or them, everybody calling for his head, or, if he was really checked out, some of the X's and O's were questionable, running Wildcat a lot of times. And you're really going to see that early on in Stefanski's tenure. So just some questionable things there too. But he's going to have a lot of questions to answer. Can he win the NFC South? Can the Falcons, who were in a 3-way tie, and, if a tiebreaker goes the other way, the Atlanta Falcons could have been in the NFC playoffs this year. You look at the Falcons, can they win the division? For Stefanski, with Michael Penix and Kirk Cousins, who, Rob, we joked on Main Event that he was on talking after the AFC Championship game about how the Patriots may have another dynasty. And I was like, Kirk Cousins still plays football, right? So why is he... All right, but that's your quarterback room. And, we'll see if he can get that together. Those are some big questions. Obviously, they have the weapons with Bijan Robinson at running back, and behind him, Tyler Algier, who is, obviously a very good number 2 running back. You have Drake London. You have Kyle Pitts, who's emerging now, starting to finally find his footing. But I think the biggest question of them all is Kevin Stefanski going to be able to show that he wasn't the issue with him and Baker Mayfield, because he's going to see him twice a year. Baker's already addressed him via Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. And Kevin Stefanski addressed it today. Basically, praised Baker for, hey, he's I respect him as a football player. He's a good football player. Yeah, as a good person, but I'm not going to go further. Is this the most exciting rivalry in the NFL right now? Is it Baker and Stefanski? I know there's obviously team rivalries, Packers, Bears, Browns, Steelers, when we're competitive. But is Stefanski versus Baker 2 times a year the most exciting player/coach rivalry in the NFL right now?
Well, the other thing, and I'm double checking this because I heard it, Kevin Stefanski is going to have a long year because he's going to have those 2 games with Baker. And just as luck would have it, the NFC South is going to be playing the AFC North this year. So he's going to have the Browns on the schedule too. So there's going to be revenge games all around. And also, Browns v. Tampa Bay Bucks. That should be a fun one. I anticipate Baker throwing 5 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. It will be glorious. Jameis Winston will be proud. But it's probably right now when it comes down to the active combatants, like, I understand they've been in the same division for years. They've been, around each other for years, but they don't have kind of the history that the Browns and Steelers do, that the Ravens and Steelers even do. This is the flavor of the week rivalry. There is really no history behind it. It's just, 2 guys that have some beef, and it'll be kind of fun to watch. So, we'll see if those guys are going to stick around for a couple, 2-3 years. And, Baker has 6 shots at Kevin Stefanski, then we might be talking about something. But, right now, it's going to be interesting, but it is probably the most buzzworthy and topical rivalry. But, I don't know if it's going to compare to the long-standing, Browns, Vikings and Packers and Bears and Vikings and all that stuff, too. So,
that's true. Tush push. That's a big rivalry right now, too.
Yeah. What do you think, Chad? I mean, Baker, obviously, Stefanski, they both, in one way or the other, Browns fans feel some type of way about them, whether you loved them or you hated them. And what do you think? Are you getting your popcorn ready for this matchup twice a year?
Well, yeah, but I think I agree with Rob in a lot of ways, because I think it's this is not really like a traditional sit around with the family on Friday nights for TGIF, right? This is like Netflix and chill and watch 3-6 quick episodes or whatever, and the series is over. But yeah, I think I would say I'm really proud because on illegal formation with TK Dandridge, I posed this question before any of this happened. I said, listen, with Kevin Stefanski going down to Atlanta now, how soon does the rivalry with Baker start? I mean, does Baker have an extra chip on his shoulder? Does he say that something happened? Does it blow up? And like I said, I would say I'm proud of myself for that. But if you didn't see this coming, then maybe you've not paid attention to the NFL for the last few years. I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to be fun to watch, but I think it's going to be one of those things that blows over relatively quickly. To your point, Rob, it's not one of the traditional, Bears, Packers, whatever. It's not like
it gives us a reason to give a shit about the NFC South. That's probably the best thing we could say about it.
Yeah, if it were a great division, if these 2 teams were perennial, 13-4, 14-3 type of teams, maybe it would have a little more steam. But I think more so it's for us in Cleveland, right? It's like it's got some local flavor. We'll watch it. But I think around the nation, I think a lot of people just probably really don't care.
Very interesting.
Each other. If they punch each other, then everyone cares.
I gotta tell you this too, guys. I brought up rivalries. I was scrolling through social media, and they were, the Seahawks just making the Super Bowl. They posted one of the most iconic post game interviews after an NFC Championship game, which was Richard Sherman telling, Aaron Andrews, or whoever the sideline reporter was at that time, that when you put a sorry ass receiver like Crabtree on him, that's what's going to happen. That was a partial quote from Richard Sherman, who was very, very, very hyped up during that time. I love these types of players, coach rivalries. We really haven't had that in terms of like here in Cleveland. We don't really get a rivalry unless, like you just brought up, Rob, unless Baker and Stefanski come back to play the AFC North and they get Cleveland, this is going to be interesting. Baker's first time, not first time back. He did play against us in Carolina, but really the first time since he found his mojo again. For the most part,
he's running the shop out there. Yeah, this is the first time and I think he's probably going to chuckle to himself too that the coach that got rid of him is gone. So, yeah. I mean, it's it's going to be it's going to be odd because I think it's going to be a day that's going to sever the fan base for one game. And then it's also going to bring up a lot of bullshit. It's going to bring up a lot of baggage. And, we don't know what the situation with the roster is going to be for the Browns next year. It could be, and, we were all talking about quarterback options. Number 4 is still on the roster. So there could be a chance that he could be looking across the sideline and looking at number 4 and seeing the guy that ultimately replaced him bombed out and completely wrecked the franchise. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's going to be involved with that. It'll be fun. I think it'll be, maybe the Browns might actually be able to come. Myles Garrett on Baker might be fun. I think all of a sudden Mason Rudolph might be kind of echoed there for a half a second. We'll see what happens though.
Absolutely. It's going to be crazy. And Rob, I know I appreciate you joining us for the segments here. I know if we are back, like you said, on air here through this marathon, we might see you later on. And I'll see you Sunday.
Guys, and I like you guys doing, I like us doing stuff and everything like that. Creating content's great, but for your sake, man, I'm done working in about 7.5 hours, almost 8 hours. So yeah, if the Browns are still wandering through the weeds and scouring the earth looking for a head coach at that point in time, then I think it's going to be a dramatically different show.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. We're prepared for anything at this point, and I know you got to run out of here, obviously. And like I said, if we're on, we'll see, later on, we'll see you later. I'll see you Sunday for main event, obviously, my friend. But I want to ask you this, and I just need a quick answer from you. Okay, I know you got to run out of here. Who is the last NFL team left without a head coach? Like who out of the Browns, Raiders, and Cardinals? Who do you think is going to be the last team left? I want to ask you this, and Chad, we'll have time to expand on this after the break. But Rob, I'll pose that to you before you get out of here.
Ooh, and we got 3 winners. We got what the 3 suspects are: the Raiders, the Cardinals, and the Cleveland Browns. The 3 jobs that were probably rated the bottom 3 jobs when this whole thing started. Arizona.
Sorry.
Arizona. Okay.
I mean, you got Kyler Murray there. You got the purgatory at the quarterback position. The Browns are kind of fighting. And honestly, I don't even know why people in Phoenix give a shit about the Cardinal. Like, there's just nothing.
Oh, I don't think they do.
There. And the Bidwells are because at least with the Browns, the Haslams might be dumb, but they spend money. The Bidwells are dumb and they don't really spend money. So, and then with the Raiders out there, at least you got the Tom Brady number 1 overall pick thing kind of going there. Yeah. I don't know. At this rate, I would have to say the Arizona Cardinals would be the worst of the worst on this on this list.
Yeah. We did get some viewers chiming in with that, on Sunday at main event, saying the Cardinals are way worse off than the Browns. So we'll keep an eye on that. I do want to thank you, though, Rob, for tuning in here, or joining us, rather. And yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you. Safe travels on the road. I did just get an emergency alert for anybody in Ohio. I just got an update on my iPhone here. And it says National Weather Service, snow squall warning until 5:15 p.m. Eastern time. Slow down or delay travel. Be ready for a sudden drop to near zero visibility in icy roads and heavy snow.
Wonderful.
So,
I'm waiting for this storm to kind of cool down. And it's, everyone was all like looking around on Sunday saying, "Oh, we didn't get that much snow. We didn't." It's just still, at least up here on the snow belt, it's still coming. And but I'll keep that in mind for sure.
Absolutely. Drive safe and be safe, my bro. And thank you for joining us. We'll see you maybe later. But Robert Zicki, everybody. Yeah, Robert Zicki, everybody, on the main event Sunday evenings with myself and AA Anthony Alford. As he said, you can also check him out on WTM 1100, as he's going to be doing a lot of coverage of the Browns coaching search and other things. So stay tapped in with him. Again, you can follow him, obviously, as he has his banner at the bottom there. Boom, Rob on 1100. So check him out. Chad Bryan and myself, Eli Moon, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about all the rest of the NFL, because the Browns are making us wait. And isn't that just not nice? So when we come back, Chad Bryan and myself are going to go over some more NFL news. We're going to talk about some other stuff in the sports world, because we're going to be with you for a while. And as soon as the Browns announce their head coach, we'll get right to it. But this is the Inside Edge Network. Follow us on the Inside Edge Net. Tell a friend, tell a family member. And when we come back, we're going to discuss a whole lot more. Thanks, Rob, and thank you. We're back after this. And welcome back, everybody, to the Inside Edge Network. To my right, your left is Chad Bryan. I am Eli Moon, and thank you so much for tuning in. We have been live for about an hour and 43 minutes here, waiting on the Cleveland Browns to make a decision on their head coach, and they haven't, Chad. We had Rob Rosicki join us for a few segments. That was very nice of Rob to join us, and like he said, you can check him out on the main event here Sunday evenings with myself on the Inside Edge Network, and he's also doing things, great things at WTM 1100. So great stuff from Rob, and yeah, it was cool. That was like the first virtual meeting. You guys met in person. That was your first virtual meeting. That was very cool.
Fun, man. That was fun. Good to get a chance to work with him.
Absolutely. And we got a few more things to break down here. Obviously, we're waiting to hear from our Inside Edge talent. They're all across the board. We're going to see if we can get some more people in. If not, just want to let the audience at home know, if by chance we don't get any more Inside Edge talent right now, we will take a pause. The broadcast will end. Don't worry. But we will come back on later this evening. Right now it's about 4:45, so maybe 8, 9, 10 o'clock roughly in the evening. Keep an eye out in the later evening. And if any Browns breaking news happens, we'll be on a lot sooner. So Inside Edge Network will have all your information. Inside Edge Net on all socials. Chad, how you feeling, man? We've been sitting here. I mean, this feels like we're just having deja vu. We just keep coming back from break and keep saying the same thing. What are the Browns doing? I saw Tony Rizzo from ESPN 850 ask if there was smoke, white smoke coming from Berea yet. Like it is like the Pope, What are we doing?
I love that we're on the same page. I was just about to make that reference, that joke about his tweet from earlier. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this feels very much like that, I guess, in a less important sort of a way. We're all just kind of watching for the smoke signals, right? Not that we can see anything with this huge line of snow squalls that's about to come through. We got the weather warning. You mentioned that. So hopefully wherever Rob's heading, he'll be safe. If you're out and about right now, heading home from work or, heading to work, if you work, second, third shift, whatever your shift is, if you're heading to or from wherever you're going, just be safe out there. Remind yourself that, it's okay to slow down. You may have 4-wheel drive, but that doesn't matter much when you're trying to stop, right? So as the roads pile up, and listen, the roads are already a mess. This snowstorm that went through this past weekend. It's funny because I've mentioned it on a couple of different shows, and Eli, you and I talked about it. Mm-hmm. It's important to be nice to your meteorologists, right? They're not here to scare you into buying toilet paper or bread or whatever so you can make toilet paper sandwiches. That's not what we're doing. They're just trying to give you a heads up, right? To give you a little bit of an idea of what you're driving into or what you're moving into, whatever it is. So as the line of squalls come through now, I look at the roads around here. I mean, it's been different because normally it's Northeast Ohio. It can snow 2 feet, right? And we have no issue with it. We get cleaned up. We're good to go. 24 hours later, the roads look like it's a summer day, right? But with the extreme cold temperatures, it's been different. Everything's been sticking to the roads. Salt isn't as effective, in this cold weather like this. When it gets down to where it feels 20, 30 below zero, there's just not much you can do. The roads are still a mess. I mean, a lot of communities still have side streets that haven't been touched. And that's not the fault of the plow drivers. There's only so much they can do. There's only so many plow trucks out, right? These guys are working, their tails off to make sure everything's cleared out. But now here comes another little line of snow squalls, and it doesn't sound like a lot. But with, snow and the wind or whatever, everything can become quickly a mess again, So just be careful if you're out. I guess that's my point. Just, be cautious if you're out and about. It's okay to sit down and take your time and just get there safely, not have to get there first, right?
Yeah, exactly. We're all getting to the same place, is what Papa Moon always says when he's driving. Hey, we're all going to the same place. Everybody just relax, I obviously was out this weekend. I talked to you about that. I helped one of my bros move, and I do it over and over again if I had to. But it was definitely cold. And then one of my bros, shout out King Grim. He's a hip hop artist out of Cleveland here. We went down and shot the music video for his song Winter Arc, which is out on YouTube, the music video. I shot it, he edited it, and it's out there right now. Really, really good. Winter Arc by King Grim. And then I obviously promoted. I have an album release show. So if you're in the Cleveland area, if you feel like traveling to Cleveland on February 27th, Brothers Lounge, I'll be having my Golden Child album release show, announcing the album Golden Child by myself and my bro Narrator, who produced the entire thing, and obviously everything just done between narrator and I and the collective LaHaley and everybody involved. So if you're wanting to come out February 27th, we should be done with Winter Storm Fern. It should be a little bit nicer out, and we'd love to see you there. But as Chad said, stay safe. If you're in Ohio or if you're in any of these 40 states that have had a warning with Winter Storm Fern, just be aware and be cautious. Your safety matters, and we care about you here on the Inside Edge Network. So,
and if you're watching from the southern states and you still don't have, you're not watching if you don't have power. But just if you run across this later, I hope you're hanging in there. I hope you're staying warm. I know Tennessee is in a really, really tough state right now, a state of being, not the state of Tennessee, but just a lot of people without power. Very, very cold. It's historically cold. So obviously, we hope the best for everyone that's involved. A lot of people had it a lot worse than we did, Eli, and some of those states aren't used to the winter weather that way. So just thinking of everyone. Hope you're staying safe and warm and healthy.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I agree, and I think the entire network shares that sentiment. So absolutely, stay safe, everybody. Let's pivot back here for a moment. I asked a question to Rob Rizicki, who joined us here, and I'm going to ask you the same question, Chad. I know we kind of went over it yesterday. But things have changed. The Buffalo Bills have their guy. And I just want to make sure that your answer hasn't changed. So the question I posed to Rob Rizicki before the break is the same one I'll pose here to you. Who is the last NFL team left without a head coach?
It's part of me still thinks it's going to be the Browns. But I agree that the Arizona Cardinals situation is more of a mess because you've got a former, first round. You've got Kyler Murray sitting there. And who knows if he's going to keep playing football or if he's going to go be an e-gamer and, jump into the Call of Duty ranks. We don't know. He likes his Call of Duty. So, but then you've got Jacoby Brissett, who played very, very well this year for an extended period of time. And I get it. A lot of people think he's probably not the guy for the next 8 or 10 years. Maybe not. But if he plays, anywhere near approaching what he was able to do this year, if he can do that, then he can be a good stopgap there for a season or two. Until they find a guy or until he maybe continues to develop some guy. Listen, we don't all develop at the same rate, right? And then I've been thinking about the Raiders situation, and the Raiders are in an odd spot, right? It's the Raiders, right? The Raiders, right? You think of Chris Berman back in the day. You think all the shoulder pads with the metal spikes and the people wearing all the crazy face paint, and they're the fans there, and they. I don't think I'm saying anything disparaging about Raiders fans when I say this. I used to be a Raiders fan before I moved up to Cleveland. Switched one bad franchise for another. It doesn't matter. It's not a front runner, clearly. I did that wrong if I am. But the Raiders, it's their fans are mean, they're nasty, they're loud, they're obnoxious, and they're gonna draft the nicest guy in the history of guys in Fernando Mendoza to be the leader of that team. And it's so weird. Like I don't know, man. Like, are they really going to relate to Fernando Mendoza? I guess if he goes out there and wins 14, 15 games a season, they'll relate the heck out of him. But, it's just a funny situation. I don't know who's going to be the coach there. They could totally surprise us and go another route, but I expect that to be Fernando Mendoza. I mean, I thought he did enough against Miami in the national championship game to prove that he's probably worthy of the number 1 overall pick, football-wise, just mentality-wise, his character, whatever. He's that guy. But it's funny because it doesn't exactly fit with the Raiders persona, right? Like the Raiders have this thing you expect the Raiders to be, and then he's not that. But that's okay. It'll be an interesting mix, I don't know. I guess I'm torn between it's just it being the Cardinals and the Browns, but I feel like because Jimmy Haslam is involved and he's comfortable taking his time on this thing, even though we're all getting annoyed, I feel like it's going to be the Browns. They're going to be the last team without a head coach, and then it's going to feel like, even though we all like Jim Schwartz, it's probably at that point going to be Jim Schwartz, right? And then we're all going to feel like we scraped some crumbs together and for leftovers and called it dinner, and we're going to have to sit through an entire meal of that, at least one meal. If not 2, I don't know. I mean, how long will Jim Schwartz be here as the head coach if he's named the guy? I think this is such a rabbit hole. And then there's so many different ways you can go. But I guess, again, I made a short answer long. I think it's still going to be the Browns.
There's a lot to unpack there. I still am going to lean towards the Cardinals because I think the Browns, I know it seems late. I still think they get it done today. I don't know what it's going to be, but I think if they waste time today, that you're going to open the door to be the last team standing, and that's not necessarily a great thing. The Seahawks and Patriots are trying to
prove, Eli, that they really don't know what they're doing. If it takes that long, I mean, they've interviewed everybody they want to interview. Whatever. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. In this case, you don't want to be the last team standing, because the Patriots and Seahawks, yeah, they want to be the last team standing. The Browns should not be the last team standing here.
Yeah.
And just to touch on the Raiders situation a little bit, it is funny about Mendoza. I do think about Tom Brady, though. Tom Brady was never like a mean guy. He was his business. And, he's seeming to call a lot of the shots there in Las Vegas. But yeah, Mendoza, just a nice guy. I mean, who announces that they're going to the NFL draft by LinkedIn? Via LinkedIn, he's open to work. I think they're going to have a few suitors for you, Mr. Mendoza. Just incredible. But yeah, it will be definitely a different vibe there in Las Vegas. And it's going to be interesting. You're like the nicest guy ever going to Sin City. We'll see. By
the way, I got that LinkedIn notification on my Disney app. So that was interesting. I thought, okay, here's Fernando Mendoza. That's great.
Yeah, it's just crazy, man. It's just crazy. But you look at the Browns and you look at the situation. You brought up a very interesting point earlier, and I want to pivot into another discussion here. I know, like I said, we're just for those tuning on in. Thank you. I mean, we're just increasingly gaining viewers, and we appreciate you choosing the Inside Edge Network for your Browns coverage, your NFL coverage. Thank you so much. Just a reminder, we are going to take a pause after this segment. The broadcast will end. Don't freak out, because we'll resume a broadcast here later this evening. I'd say for sure 9 o'clock, 9:30. I feel comfortable about. I feel good about us.
Him again. You'll never be able to. It's ruined.
I know. But we will. Chad and I will be back on. We may have a double A Anthony Alford appearance potentially later on. So a lot to tune back in. Maybe Rob Brzicki later, and more Inside Edge talent throughout our coverage. And if the Browns don't hire anybody today, we will be back tomorrow with more breaking news coverage, I'm sure.
We're never going to quit you. We will be here for you. We promise.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously we'll have our breakdown of who, the Cleveland Browns head coaches and our thoughts. We've shared a lot of thoughts already, but I feel like obviously when it actually happens, now it's a real thing. Now it's tangible. Now it's something you can actually like process.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And one thing, you mentioned in like one of the first, actually like the first like 30 minutes of the show before Rob joined us, Chad, and I thought was interesting is, Nate Shieldhouse getting a lot of attention, the Rams passing game coordinator, for those wondering more about him. He is 35 years old, played quarterback at Illinois in the Big Ten, which is now a big thing apparently because the Big Ten's national champions 3 times in a row. So obviously he has some experience there, has coached in the collegiate ranks, has coached in the NFL, but he hasn't called plays yet in his 2 years with Sean McVay. But he's still an offensive mind at 35 years old that excites a lot of teams. But something that I want to bring up here, Chad, is Adam Schefter had reported a few hours ago that the New York Jets relieved offensive coordinator Tanner Engstrand of duties. They're going to keep Aaron Glenn, it appears, as head coach, give him a second-year run. But offensively, they're looking for a change. You brought up Nate Shieldhouse going potentially to another offensive coordinator position, maybe in Buffalo after they promote Joe Brady earlier today for a 5-year deal. This makes me worried. Now, like I said earlier, you're starting to worry me with like that talk of just Buffalo. Now it's the Jets have an OC opening. There's other OC openings across the league. And with the Jets, okay, there's still a lot of questions with the Jets, as always. But they do have some exciting pieces. Breece Hall in the backfield, Garrett Wilson at wide receiver. They want to see what they get out of Mason Taylor still at tight end. So they have some interesting names on offense, which here in Cleveland, I'm quite worried now that this is why it's taking a little bit longer. Again, this came out a little bit earlier from Schefter, but it seems like maybe this has more smoke, and more concern that we weren't giving to, as far as the Jets might grab Shieldhouse, and now it's really like, all right, who's the coach? Is it Schwartz? Is it Monken? Or is it Lynn? Or are we just really in trouble and need to, like we said yesterday, call on Prime or call on Belichick and see what they're doing? I mean, how do you feel about this?
Listen, I think anything. I've been a Browns fan long enough to know that anything that is bad that can happen is likely to happen. Right? I won't say it's going to happen. But yeah, I mean, a team like the Jets could, they for sure could swing in and pull in Nate. And for all we know, these interviews that Nate Shieldhouse has done, we don't know how they're going, right? We don't know if these teams are super impressed with him. We don't know if the lasting feel from a lot of people as well. Okay, passing game coordinator, that's great. You worked under Sean McVay. Let's get you some experience calling plays in the NFL. And then, we can talk next coaching cycle or whatever, a couple years down the line, in which those same opportunities may not be open. But if he's not a guy that's dead set on one city or one team, then that's not going to matter to him. But something that worries me a little bit is going from a big city to a big city, right? You go from LA to New York. New York's different. I think press-wise, there's a different feel, right? It's a colder weather city, tends to be a little more not so much what have you done for me lately, but what have you done for me now, right? Like, what are you going to do now? There's definitely a different urgency in New York. So I think that's a little different than he would be used to in LA, but it's still a big city. I don't know if he maybe likes the big city feel. I have no idea. He's from Missouri. I was actually the 2008 Missouri Gatorade Player of the Year for whatever it's worth in high school as a quarterback. So he's a guy who I think he understands offense at a high level. He's shown he's called plays for Matt Campbell at Iowa State. We talked about that. Matt Campbell, now the head coach at Penn State, by the way. I don't know. I worry as a Browns fan that one of these teams is going to see his value as a play caller, as an offensive coordinator, as a possible play caller, and look back on what he did with Iowa State. He was there. I can't remember. There's a receiver that they had. Oh, I'm blanking on his name right now. It had one of the best seasons in the history of Iowa State, basically, when Shieldhouse and Matt Campbell were there together. Like I said, just blanking on his name. I'm an old guy. It's been a tough day.
Yeah, good.
But, I think that, one of these teams could see his value as a possible play caller. And if he's getting feedback from a lot of the squads that he's interviewing with that are telling him, hey, we like you. We like, some of your philosophies. We like what you've done so far, but we'd just like to see you get a little bit of experience, either being in charge of a little bit more with the offense, maybe calling some plays. Maybe that's a direction that he leans, and then all of a sudden you have to worry about Buffalo, worry about New York, right? So I don't know. It's another wild card. It's another wrench in the works, right? Like we don't know what's going to happen, but you always feel as a Browns fan that the other shoe is going to drop, and it's usually not good. That's where I am. I guess I worry, but what am I worried about? My sneaking suspicion from the beginning was that the Browns were going to mess this thing up anyway. So my expectations were low, right? I don't know. Eli, how do you feel about it? Obviously you said we know you're
I'm worried. Yeah, I'm worried. It just really, the more and more, it just seems like it's going to be Jim Schwartz. It really does. And I know we've talked about that, and Rob mentioned, how he feels about it, and if this was Jim Schwartz 3 weeks ago, I'd feel good about it because, okay, they truly believe in Jim Schwartz. Yeah. But as we talked about, we keep doing the comparison, he's kind of just the last person standing that will take the job. And the Browns, if they are in that spot, they sure better hope that Jim Schwartz hasn't just grown tired of the BS and goes somewhere else. Yep. Because just as much as we're talking about Shieldhouse being an OC instead of maybe the Browns head coach, with these openings, there's openings on the defensive side of the ball too. And Jim Schwartz would definitely be highly coveted if he said, "Hey, I'm opening I'm open to DC positions as well." So that's how I feel.
And you would have to think that around the league, there's an underlying feel that if the Browns mess this thing up enough with the head coach search and with Jim Schwartz, that they've messed it up with Myles Garrett as well. And there's a good chance that Myles Garrett can't force a trade. He's under contract, right? There's nothing he can do to force a trade, but he could certainly, I guess he could threaten to sit out. And then if you're the Browns, what do? You might as well get something for him. But then you're in a just like last offseason, you're in a position where the return goes down for him because he's made it known that he wants out. So any team that hires Jim Schwartz has to think, well, maybe there's a chance we can get Myles Garrett to force a trade here, right? I don't know. It's unlikely, but crazier things have happened.
It sure has. It sure has. And there's a lot to unpack here. Obviously, like as we've talked about here throughout the 2 hours we've been on air here, 2 hours and 2 minutes, breaking down what we expected to be some breaking news at some point for the Browns, still kind of waiting to the point where, we got to go take care of some responsibilities at the house, respectively for both of us and get back to it. But yeah, it just seems like there's a ton of stuff going on in terms of like, what are the Browns going to do? And I guess we're not going to have really any more answers until they just announce who it is.
Yeah.
And it's kind of where we're at, Chad. I mean, yeah, that's where we're at. I mean, so we're going to, obviously I do want to go over some news before we get out of here just for a moment. The Cavaliers did announce that Evan Mobley, and I'm reading this here from the Akron Beacon Journal and Nate Ulrich, but Evan Mobley diagnosed with calf strain. For Cleveland fans and NBA fans out there, just a little bit of news here that he has a calf strain and that he's expected to miss some time, 1 to 3 weeks. Obviously, Cavaliers, that's a whole different discussion, whole different sport. Not good, though. That's one of the core 4 members. So not great there, Chad. So Cleveland news, but not necessarily good news and not the news we expected today.
Strained his calf trying to take that next leap forward, I guess. Unfortunately. I don't like calf injuries. They scare me, Eli. They linger. You don't want Evan Mobley to be hurt, That's terrifying to think about. I mean, the Cavs are already not. It'd be different if the Cavs were, sitting at first in the East, right, on top of the playoff standings, and had a decent season, but that's not what's happened there. That makes me nervous. I'm gonna be honest with you, that makes me a little nervous.
Yeah, I mean, it's not great. A calf strain. Yeah, not great. So we'll keep an eye on Evan Mobley. And here's what I'll tell everybody out there watching right now. When we come back, which we're gonna sign off for now here in just a second. We're gonna come back around. I'd say keep an eye out around the 9 o'clock hour, 9-10 o'clock. In that, I'd say we should be able to get back on air. We may have some news by then. We may have news earlier, and if we do get breaking news, the Inside Edge Network, somebody will be on air to discuss all that with you. But yeah,
all the fighters, man. We'll get everything in the air, and we'll be with you.
Absolutely. And heck, I mean, with ways going and the Browns not announcing anything, we may just talk about some other sports. We talked a little NBA there with Cavs. May just go over some other stuff too, just to entertain all the masses here. But we thank all of you for tuning in here with us for the 2 hours we have been reporting on all the information on the NFL going across the board. Obviously, we'll have more to break down as we get back. But thank you all. Make sure you follow us at the Inside Edge Network at Inside Edge Net on all of the social media. Hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell button, get alerted when we go live so that you can get the breaking news on the Browns head coach, who it is, and anything else going forward when we go live. Got a lot of great content from sports, entertainment, mental health, music. We are taking care of everything. We are your source for everything right now in the world. So thank you so much for everybody tuning in. Thanks, Robert Zicki, for tuning in for the few segments we had him on. Driving safe. I hope he is getting to where he needs to and is already parked in his parking lot ready to go. And so sending well wishes and blessings to him. Thank you to Rob. Thank you to Chad Bryan. Obviously here last night with me, my bro, on the late side. Yep. Thinking today would be the day, and maybe it will be. But nonetheless, thank you so much for providing your insight. And you make sure you give Chad a follow at Real Chad Bryan. Make sure you give me a follow at the man they call Moon. Again, Inside Edge Network at Inside Edge Net. And we will be back later this evening, about 9-10 o'clock East Coast time. So just the beginning of your evening if you're in the West Coast, and then somewhere in between. Well, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. So for Chad Bryan, I am Eli Moon. This is the Inside Edge Network. We want you to stay safe, stay blessed. We love you, and we'll see you guys a little bit later, all right? Take care.